Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that because this doesn't happen without you. I want you to know you at the right place at the right time, the place where you come in ordinary and you leave extraordinary. This is the number one home for personal development. This is Coin Gang Ministries and it's ministry for the abstract mind. And I want to let you know this is a safe space for everybody out there that has an out the box philosophy. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here and gel and vibe with the family that has a commitment for personal development. You at the right place at the right time. Welcome, 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 welcome. If you have babies, please keep your babies close. Keep them close. Get the aux cord. Let your baby play you a song. Ask them why they like that song. And if you have someone in your life that's loving on you, please let them. Because there ain't no manual for this love thing. We're just learning as we go. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. If you can see me, press one. And if you can hear me, press two. Because over here, it has to be top shelf or nothing. So if everything is good on your end, go ahead and give me a one and go ahead and give me a two. And let me know how you're doing out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great show today. Triggering show to some, but an informative and important show. My conversation is a conversation that, when things were brought to my attention, I was actually very shocked because it's a lot of critiquing, when in regards to women and what women should be doing and what women aren't doing, tradition and relationships. And we hear that all day. That's part of our algorithm cycle. But not a lot of conversation in regards to how women are feeling. Even women content creators, big channels, they're even called in the dating and mating cycle. But no one is asking how are women feeling, right? But I want to know how women are feeling because when some things got put on my lap, I was shocked, I was astonished, and I had to change, right, my perspective on some things. Before I get in that, already coming through on the wood with the 499, Planetera, I appreciate you. Stick around. I hope this conversation is very informative and I hope that you can do something with it. Ladies and gentlemen, our conversation today is the medical apartheid of American black women. The American apartheid of American black women. Now, I'm hearing every single conversation but health. I'm hearing conversations about femininity. I'm hearing conversations about masculinity and dating and traditional wife and blah blah. But I am not hearing any conversations on the same women that Myron and Fresh and Fit is talking about them being desirable. No one is asking how are these women doing? We're talking about their weight, talking about their hair. But no one is asking, yo, how are these women doing? So we're going to have that conversation today, but I'm not going to have it by myself, right? I'm going to bring on somebody who knows more about this topic than me. So I want everybody to say hello to my guest. Allow her introduce herself.
Oh, hello. Thank you. You coming in clearly.
Shoot, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to thank you for having me today to talk to an important issue. And I don't
You have a slight, if it's a slight lag, it's a slight lag on your end. But go ahead, keep talking. Let me see.
issue, but I don't want to come at this, but I also want to bring solution. Am I coming in
Yeah,
still?
it's a little static. I don't know. It could be the mic. Go, go ahead, keep talking.
How about this?
Go ahead.
Is this better? Great. Well, thank you. My name is Tahiry with me. I my spirituality in a practical and majority of my. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, it's still lagging.
I need to click out and then click back.
Okay, talk now.
Tahiry Divine.
Yeah, this is an important topic. I want them to hear you good. Unplug the mic and plug it back in. Or try it with no mic and see how you sound.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, talk.
Two. Testing. Test. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. I think I'm gonna log out and log back.
Okay, try to do that. Log out and come back in. Follow the same link. All right, when she comes back. Her and I talked behind the scenes and she put some information on my lap that was very interesting to me. And I want to have a conversation about some of the things that I learned. I didn't know certain things regarding the medical field in regards to black women. So, to touch this the moment that I heard it. So, she's going to get her thing together because I definitely want y'all to hear this. And everything you hear, I want you to take it and run with it. And the things that I heard, it made me look at the women that I know with more compassion and in a different light because this was a serious thing. And when she shared this information with me, I had to get on this 911, right? This is a 911 topic, and I know a lot of women, specifically African American or black women, don't realize what's going on inside of them. Let's try it again. All right,
Okay.
go ahead, love.
Am I coming in clearly?
You got it. Go ahead.
Yay! Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, the energy is busy, but I'm busier. So we're going to keep it going. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tahiry Divine. I am a spiritual educator as well as a health educator. And I have worked in the health clinical research industry for all over 10 years, primarily with my focus and studies in heart disease in Black women as it pertains to stroke and diabetes. So I am here today to present some information as well as talk about what we know as a medical apartheid, the discrepancies that are happening within our health. But more importantly, it's about solutions because again, I'm a practical spiritualist. So we're about solution-based mindset and taking over agency, which we call self-agency of ourselves, so that we can make informed choices, connections that better our life, our spiritual life, our mental, emotional, and our financial life. So thank you for having me, Ken. I'm really happy to have this conversation.
Thank you for being here. I wanna go right into it. Tell me what this means. The prison system to black men is what the medical industry is to black women. Okay? The prison system, the justice system to black men is equal to the medical industry to black women. What does that mean?
Well, I have to say, you really blew me away with that when you gave me that analogy, and I had to sit with it. And I said, wow, I can actually see why we could see it that way because how Black men are just disproportionately going to prison for whatever the reasons, right? Equally on the opposite end, Black women are disproportionately suffering in the health industry or just in health, their health in general. So it is quite this interesting conversation that you brought up about how a lot of women are having conversations about the prison to pipeline, but yet there's no conversations about the blood glucose or what we call diabetes or pre-diabetic to stroke, and that affects Black women at a disproportionate rate. And it's not just stroke itself. What it really is cardiovascular, or what we know as heart disease. So I'm going to go into some of these terms just for you guys to have the medical understanding what we're talking about, and also what is happening and has been happening with Black women in the health industry, as well as what we can do about it.
Okay, so take me back to the beginning. What is Black women's history with the medical field in this country? What is the secret relationship?
Yeah. Well, we're well aware of how Black women were once enslaved here in the United States, the Americas in general. However, who we know as the father of modern gynecology goes by the name of Martin Sims. He is known as the father of modern day gynecology, mainly because of his studies and research on the enslaved Black women that he used to do operations on without anesthesia. So, a lot of what he has done in his studies and his research was at the expense, at the body of a Black woman. And so, I think that's really important for us to understand that our relationship here in this country, particularly, has been a disproportionate one. We have been used for many medical advances. We are familiar, if you guys are not familiar, of the story of Henrietta Lacks, who was a young Black woman who had some unusual growth happening in her uterus. And what the doctors were doing, they were aware or became aware from samples of her cells that they were duplicating itself. It was seems like they were duplicating. So what they did, they told her she had a diagnosis and that they had to continue more work on her, research on her, but they didn't let her know it was research. And they literally fried this woman to death by the many amount of X-rays they did to continue to watch how her cells would just replenish itself, redistribute itself. So, and her cells are today, which are known as the HeLa cells, are still used today in the medical field for its amazing healing ability to regenerate. And there's a movie that I believe Oprah Winfrey did that does outline the family's journey of her story and also the reparations that were due to that family based on them killing this woman. We're also familiar with the syphilis experiment and Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where the doctors were wanting to see. Now, mind you, now these men had syphilis. They were Black American men that had syphilis. There was already a cure for syphilis. What they wanted to research or study and observe was the long term effect of the ongoing duration of this disease that could have been stopped. So these men thought they were getting treatment for syphilis, were not being treated for it, and were spreading this back to the women that they were going to, partnering with. So spreading this disease amongst Black people in Alabama. So we have a very troubled history, yes, and there are some definitely some real live lived experiences that are showing how disproportionate that the treatments in healthcare that we're receiving. So I think it's important that we discuss this because this is really what's hurting Black people. It's our health. It's not hair. It's not weaves. It's not none of these things. It's really our health, and that includes our morbidity as well. So we're dying at an astronomical rate, but more importantly, what I want the women and also, the men who are connected to women that are listening as well to understand that we're going to have to learn how to be advocates for ourselves, and that's what I'm here today to share some of these results with you guys, give some practical solutions to you all, as well as things that you can do going forward to be an advocate for your own health, not only in the healthcare industry, but in your everyday lived life, because it starts with self.
Okay, so rewind. You put something on my lap. You said that the field and the science of gynecology, that the origins of that is working on slave girls.
Enslaved women, yes. I want us to be very clear. They were enslaved, but these
Enslaved,
were,
excuse me.
yes, Black
Enslaved.
and girls. So the modern gynecology, so what we know in gynecology today, was based off the bodies of Black women and girls being, so what we know about cesarean sections, the advances that we had there, the advances that they have had on other womb and health ailments were off the bodies of Black women and girls. And because of that, these women were not given anesthesia. I want y'all to be very clear. This was in the 1800s. And these women were not given any type of anesthesia. And on the medical books to this day, it's so medical. When they say it's apartheid, there's a separation, because when we look at what's being used in research, when we look at the journals and the medical journals and all those different the Journal of Nursing, the Journal of Health, the Journal of Medicine, majority of these health studies are on the body of white people. So a lot of the health information that we're getting is based off a white male's his anatomy and his health. There are little to any research that's been written and still documented in ongoing studies on Black people, particularly on Black women. White women were just added, and maybe about 40 years ago, started studying white women and adding them into health studies. So this is important to see that not only are we not being ongoing studies on us as Black people, Black women, when we were being used and studied, it was being written that Black people don't feel pain. And that's why today we still have a lot of issues, particularly when Black women are giving birth, or just any time of when we're just mentioning, or what they say, complaining about some pain that we're experiencing, we're ignored. And this has happened numerous times in the maternity ward, that Black women as of 2021 are now 3 times the rate to die in hospitals giving birth. And the reason of that is multifaceted, but one of it is because inadequate care, and it doesn't matter how good your insurance is. It doesn't matter if you're partnered, because this is happening across the board to Black women. They're not being listened to when they're saying, I'm experiencing pain, discomfort, or something doesn't feel right. And I see in the comments, some people said this happened to me. This has happened to a family member of mine last year when she had her baby. And to the grace of goodness, if it wasn't for me being there with her when she had her child and when she had to go back a few days later, and it wasn't for my dad's wife, who is a charge nurse, to be in our side and our advocates for us, they would have allowed my sister to die. So there's serious issues that is happening, disparities that are happening here, and it's important that this is being discussed discussed among us. And this is, to me, why it's the most important information that Black women should be talking about, because there's a spiritual implication on what is happening to us in our health. Because whatever happening on the physical has manifested first spiritually, mentally, emotionally, before it came up physically. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today as we go into some of these statistics.
Okay, I have a question. Whew, okay, so is it, because you mentioned the spiritual component, is it possible that the experimentations that was going on to these women, is it possible that that trauma has carried on to where young girls, where they're born with it now from that medical trauma, and
Okay.
that could affect, you know, because it's this big, holding Black women's public image up and saying, look, is it possible that a lot of behaviors are from the medical procedures that were going on 150 years ago?
I'm going to go connect the dots. So there's a science called epigenesis, where there is studying not only the power of our belief, but also the transmutation of cells. There is a book by Dr. Bezel Vanderkolk, excuse me, and it's called excuse me, it just left me. It's called Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, it just left me. But it's about trauma. The body keeps score. Thank you. The body keeps the score, and he outlines how trauma is stored in the body. So I want us to take an anatomy class really quickly, and let's look at the female body. The female body, right? She is born with all her eggs in her ovaries. All right. Actually, even before there, when she's in utero, that means when her mother is pregnant with her, that fetus, female fetus, already has all the eggs that she would have had inside her while she's in the fetus. So her mother is not only just carrying the child, but also carrying her grandchildren, right? So the eggs are duplicating themselves. That's what the female eggs are doing. They're duplicating themselves, and then the genome gets broken up based on the
So
um,
a young girl,
a
4
baby. I'm
years
talking about
old.
a fetus, not even born yet. A female fetus has all her eggs inside her that she will ever have. It's already
Hmm,
inside her,
hmm.
right? So now if we're looking at trauma being passed and the body keeps the score, you are showing that the effects of the trauma is being passed down through the bloodline, through the genome, through the children. So, yes, to answer the question, yes, trauma is passed on.
Okay. Go ahead and go while I process. Go ahead and start opening up them stats. Wait, real quick, because I want you to slow grind that because I'm sure a lot of men, women didn't know that the field of gynecology is a
Modern
slave practice,
gynecology.
right? And to your not, what were some of the things they were doing?
Oh goodness. Well, first off, cesareans, surgeries, as well as X-rays, many different medications. They have been the part that just gets me is the surgeries, the surgical operations that were done on these women alive without anesthesia. I don't know. I've had surgery before. I had to get a hernia repairment, right? They put me under. So I don't remember nothing from this 3 hour surgery, but I do remember the pain when I woke up. I couldn't imagine having that being done to me while awake and fully aware of myself. So there is a lot of us a lot to unpack when we just sit with that. And like you said, allow that to marinate on what is happening to the Black women. As you said, their feelings, what's happening. And I'm going to tell you what's happening to the Black women. So, my studies is in cardiovascular disease. The reason why I was interested in that is because when I was growing up, I saw a lot of the big people, the adults taking medications. So I assumed as a child, oh, when you get older, you just take medications. That's what you do. I went into health education in my undergrad studies because I wanted to learn specifically about heart disease amongst Black women because there was a lot of women in my family and close to me that had some type of heart problems, whether it was heart disease, had a heart attack, diabetes, stroke, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to see what was happening to Black women as it pertains to heart disease. At the time, there wasn't that many studies, but they were starting to have studies on this particular, or just let's say, starting to collect the stats. Stats were being collected and being distributed on what was happening with Black women as it pertains to cardiovascular disease. So, cardiovascular disease is the number one death or cause of death in America, and it affects women the most, but Black women the highest.
Well, hold on. Okay. So the heart disease is the number one killer of black women.
Of
Aging.
of yes, of people in general in America, but with Black women being the highest.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So that's Big Mom and them. Young people too.
Yes, yes, particularly over the age of a Black female by the age of 20 is likely to have become pre-diabetic and also become have cardiovascular issues by the age of 20.
So a lot of the young women that might be getting a lot of shade from her male counterparts online or just society, they may be sick. That's possible, right? That's highly likely that their behavior is because they're actually sick.
Yes. I want to get some more other stats. So, just America alone, about 60% of America are pre diabetic and may not even know it. So, I just want to put that into perspective. A lot of people are pre diabetic and don't even know they are. So, now we chunk that down to Black women. The rates are astronomical when it comes to heart cardiovascular disease problems. And I want us to go into some of the numbers, if that's okay, and why this is unsettling and why this is important information. So, cardiovascular disease kills more than 50,000 Black women annually, and is a leading cause of stroke, which is the leading cause of death for Black women. So, if you have a cardiovascular problem, you're more than likely, as a Black woman, to die from a stroke. For those who don't know what stroke is, a stroke shows up in two ways. It would either be a hemorrhaging, which when the blood vessel in your brain bursts, or it would be a blockage, a blood clot in the vessel, in the blood vessel of the brain, which they call a TIA, a transient ischemic stroke. So those are the two types of strokes that you can have, and these affect Black women the most. And the reason why stroke is important to know, because it all starts with your heart. Now, why is this heart thing important? I am also a student of many different religious and spiritual practices, and I have surmised that majority of all religions or some type of spiritual practice all talks about the heart in some way. We understand our heart on a spiritual, metaphysical aspect as the life energy where we experience love. This is where a part of our soul and love sits. We also understand the heart on a physical level to be the organ that is producing life juice we call blood. Okay? So, if if we're talking about a cardiovascular problem, a heart disease, that means there's something going on with the heart. So we know physically that can mean it's nutrition based. So maybe there's the proper nutrients they're not getting. A lot of Black women, people in general, but Black women are not getting the necessary electrolytes needed. They're not having the healthiest diet due to tradition, due to food deserts, just due to not knowing. Okay, as well as stress from the life in general, being a Black woman in America, stress of relationships, lack of love or reciprocation. Majority of Black women are experiencing in some ways unrequited love. Black women give so much love and energy to other people, and it's not reciprocated back. And in my studies, I am looking at the mind body soul connection, which other doctors have been doing as well. And I am able to surmise that this experience of unrequited love is also in a perfect environment to produce a cardiovascular issues that will lead to stroke, which affects the brain because the blood is now being cut off. That is what stroke is. The blood is being cut off to the brain, or it's a rupturing in the brain. So when we look at these numbers of what's happening to our population here of Black women here in America, it's alarming, and it makes us say, why are we not talking more about? Because I want to see from the chat. I want somebody in the chat, put a one in chat if you know if you or another Black woman that you may know have heart disease.
Mm.
On top of that, I want you to put a two in the chat if you or someone you know have diabetes. Type 1, type 2, it don't matter. But put a 2 in the chat. I want you to put a 3 in the chat if you know you yourself or another Black woman you know has hypertension, which is high blood pressure. And if you know someone with all of them, put all the numbers in. Look at the numbers coming in.
Mm.
Do you remember on Soul Food, the movie? I only seen the movie. I haven't seen the TV show. But what happened to Big Mama?
Yeah, Big Mama went down.
Why? What happened to her?
Her sugar.
Yeah, this woman had diabetes.
I want to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
And be brutally honest. Do you think a lot of the women that are putting numbers in the chat are either in a relationship, or whoever they're putting the number for, they're in a relationship? Do you think the majority of these ones are coming from single women or paired women?
Majority is coming from paired women, but single women are affected. But it's exasperated amongst paired women, particularly married women. So we have statistics that came out saying that married women, well, let's start with this. Married men live longer than single men. Single women live longer than married women. And of that pecking order, married women were the least likely to live as long. So, what is that telling us, right? We're talking about the heart. We're talking about, somebody said it, the one sided loyalty, the unrequited love, whether it's unrequited love for with their family, another black woman, black men, the children, their family members, their friend groups, their community. It's a lot of love that women deprive themselves. And this is important to understand because this now goes into behavior, right? A lot of black women, a lot of us are suffering from mental health issues. And I have to call it mental health and emotional health issues because they're actually both, which such things as depression and anxiety. And for Black women, I'm very appreciative that Cambridge University came with a study that Black women are they show depression shows up differently in us. So the textbook depression, right? The loathing, always tired. That textbook explanation of what depression is not how it shows up in Black women. It typically shows up in lack of self-worth, overeating, it shows up in overperformance. So for us, when we experience depression, there are totally different symptoms. So I want to look at something too, why our food is important because carbs are nothing but sugar, which is glucose. And when we eat glucose, it gives us dopamine. When somebody craves sweet foods or just carbs in general, which is glucose, they are really saying on a metaphysical, which is just the emotional level, I need something sweet because I'm sad. So I like a cookie or a comfort food, right? Even the term comfort food, it's about trying to ease or soothe an unpleasant life. I want to give an example or a background, my own background story on what led me, that woke me up to get to this point. Um, I grew up in a Southern two-parent military home. I am the oldest of four kids, so a lot of responsibility was on me to, be the example, be the leader. Anyway, long story short, when I graduated college, my siblings needed help, and for whatever reason, my parents said I'm the one that needs to handle it. So I had my sister move in with me with her new baby. I had my brother move in with me, and at the time, I had this ain't crap dude I was dating move, and he was living with me. And I had all these able-bodied adults in my living with my apartment, and nobody was paying rent. I was the only person working. I was the only person paying rent, and I was taking care of my pretty much adult siblings. I was like 22 at the time. My brother was 20. My sister had to be maybe 18. And the guy I was dating was like maybe 28. So he was a grown up person. But anyway, what ended up happening was I was so stressed by that because I was also in grad school at the same time. I was so stressed because I'm working full time, got these grown ass adults in my apartment. I'm trying to be helpful big sister to my siblings, and then my aunt-ish boyfriend at the time just, I don't know what I was doing. I think I just needed him because I needed the car at the time. If I just keep it a book, I think I just needed the car at the time. But what ended up happening, I was getting ready for work, and I was doing my hair, and I was experiencing a sweat, like a cold sweat, and my legs started to feel a little off, and immediately my vision went. So my eyes blacked out, and I started to scream because I couldn't see. So I'm like sweating, but I'm feeling cold. My legs were feeling like jelly. The boyfriend I had and my siblings ended up taking me to urgent care. I got to the urgent care. They're checking my vitals. Mind you, I have a perfect bill of health to my knowledge up to that point. And the doctor, well, it wasn't doctor, the urgent care specialist said, ma'am, are you a diabetic? I said, no, I don't have diabetes. They said, "Well, ma'am, we just took your." They checked my vitals. My sugar level was well above the 300s. I was close to having a diabetic coma. They said you need to get to the ER immediately. I was rushed to the ER. The end of help, they did what they had. The doctors did what they had to do to get my levels level, to get my whatever. What it was that got. Well, I'm jumping ahead. So this is the part where things get interesting. I had a nurse that came in. This beautiful black woman. Oh my God, this woman was so beautiful. She had to be a middle-aged black woman. Middle-aged black woman came into my room and she's like, I'm here to check your vitals. No, I'm here to check why you're here. And I said, oh, okay. I'm like, kind of been here for like almost a day. So I'm like, well, yeah, my vision went black. My legs went jello. They took my blood pressure and they checked my blood levels and da, da, da. She's like, no, 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 no. Why are you here? And I'm like, so I went through my symptoms again. And she said, no, ma'am. She said, you're here because, how did she say it to me? She said, you are not here to bear anybody's weight. At the time, she said cross. She said, Jesus did that 2,000 years ago. She said, you need to get yourself together or you will find yourself underground. And that lady shook me to my core. I immediately knew what it was. I was taking on so much responsibility of taking care of my siblings, his boyfriend, my sister's new baby, and nobody was checking in on me. No, none of them came to check on me while I was in the hospital, y'all. Nobody came to check on me. So I ended up getting out that situation, and it woke me up that my this level of stress led me to a diabetic coma. Well, what could have been a diabetic coma led my blood sugar, my blood pressure, all of this so high because stress is an indicator to comorbidities such as high blood pressure and high sugar levels in your blood. Because you got cortisol going on when you're in an ongoing state of stress. So much cortisol is in your body that your body's now no longer able to process any of the electrolytes that need or nutritions that need. So then it starts to raise your blood sugar levels and you crave those type of foods to ease yourself. So I want
Quick,
us to see the correlation of what's happening here.
quick question. How for the women listening now and on the playback, how could they know right now if their sugar is high? What could be some things going on with them?
Okay, well, first thing first, if you have frequent urination, that is something to be concerned of. And not and somebody said, well, I drink a lot of water. I no. If you're frequently using the restroom more than 2 to 3 times within an hour, that is an issue. That means your body is now insulin resistant. And a lot of times, like I said, 60% of Americans, that's across the board of all races and gender, are pre-diabetic, and more than half of that, 60%, don't know it. So these are some symptoms to be aware of. If you are noticing your vision is becoming more blurred, that is another indicator. Also, another thing to be known is headaches. So it's important that we are monitoring the foods that we eat, particularly things that are in high carbs, which is glucose, just glucose in general. We have to sugar. Our bodies genetically just does not process sugar and salt as well as other groups of people. But even they're having issues because the American diet in general is what's leading us to this pre-diabetic state into diabetes. On top of the stress, on top of all the other factors that Black women are working through. Yes, extreme thirst is another symptom because you're drinking a lot of water, but you're flushing out your nutrition in your so there's your magnesium, your potassium, which a lot of people are not even getting potassium, your sodium levels, your as well as vitamin K and calcium. You are flushing them out if you're continually drinking and not holding those electrolytes. And no, Gatorade only has two, and you need all five. So and Gatorade's mostly sugar. So that's not even a good electrolyte drink to even
So
continue.
you so a couple things. So what you went through, that would be considered the strong black woman,
Oh yes,
right?
and
Okay.
point blank ended with a
So
perfect. And I canceled that.
okay. So the the strong black woman is actually a medical condition, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I have to give my mother a shout out for this. My mother is a retired nurse who is now a mental health therapist, particularly in drug and alcohol therapy. And she actually did a wonderful seminar last year specifically on the mental health condition of the strong Black woman. And I am just so proud of her. And she is going to be having a lot more seminars coming out next year because her message is spreading while this is killing Black women mentally, emotionally, and breaking us down physically. That's right. Strong Black woman diseased. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between a strong black woman and responsible black woman? Because a
It's
lot of people may think they're being, them strong as being like, can you what's the difference between a responsible black woman opposed to a strong black woman? What's the difference?
self preservation is the first difference between the two. Self preservation. The strong Black woman is a mental health issue, and I will even beg to say that that is a symptom of depression because now again that is lack of self-worth is what Black women feel when they're in depressed based on the study that has came out. So overperforming, overeating. So it's this urge to do. I'm trying to prove myself worthy. I'm trying to prove my value. So much of Black women in our programming, this is why this is really disingenuous when I hear some certain people speak, because so much of our program has been taught to hate ourselves based on our phenotype, based on our hair texture, based on our where we live, who we're connected to, who we're not connected to. You know, we have not seen our image in any type of light that has been in a positive, conducive way and on an ongoing time, right? So when we look at all of these different areas on what setting women that can set Black women back, it is amazing that that's not being discussed. What is happening with Black women's health? I want to go into the research study when I was working on stroke. We would do these we'll call them like not study groups, excuse me. It would be focus groups that we will have with the study participants. So we'll have with the patients, so those who had stroke, and then we'll have some with their caregivers. Out of my Black women population, we were looking at Black men, Black women, white women. Yeah, so we're looking at that was our study group right there. And out of the Black women that had strokes, majority of my Black women participants, and I had 200 of them, majority of them were already on their second stroke by the time they got to me,
Mm.
right? And majority of them that were married and had husbands, when we had the focus group for the men for excuse me for the caregivers, so some of the ladies husbands were caregivers, and we were talking to these people. So they're all type of people in this caregiver group. We got, adult children, we have spouses, wives, husbands, etc. All different, races and all races and genders up here. Two of the Black men started the conversation when we asked them what are some ways that could have been beneficial that to help you while you were caring for your spouse, your loved one, the stroke patient. They brought up how the women weren't cleaning how they used to. They brought up how the women weren't giving the, I'm gonna say the word this man said, the cooter cat.
Mm.
I dropped my mouth because I did not understand and believe that the man really said this in front of all these people. But the part that tripped me out is that these men were more focused on what these women were not doing. Majority of the women, again, Black women do not recover well from stroke. This is what our study was looking at. Why are Black women not recovering as well as their other participants? Black women have the least recovery. So they are dealing with either they're aphasic, which means they're unable to use their use of their tongue. They probably have an arm that's not working. They're probably limping. They're probably having to go through some type of therapy, occupational therapy, just to learn how to write again. If it was the side where their hand wasn't working, a lot of these women were still expected to still be cooking, to still be cleaning, babysitting the grandkids. They were still expected to be doing something at the level they were prior to. And that right there was one of the things that made me realize that Black women are really a workhorse. And when you're no longer utilized or of use, then it's like people want to just throw you off as if there's no need for you. And this happens way too much to Black women, particularly when they have some type of health issue. I want to bring up the late B. Smith. For those who were familiar with her, she is called the Black Martha Stewart, but baby, she was out before Martha Stewart. Okay, so let's not play with Miss B. Smith. When she was going through dementia, and it got to a point when she was no longer cognitive of herself anymore, her Dusty Dan was bringing around and flaunting his mistress, white mistress, while this woman was in dementia. And he was justifying this, saying, well, I deserve to be happy. And I want Black women to do the same thing. Center yourself. So, what does that look like to center yourself? For one, it means to be self preservation. If you are the juice that keeps this thing going, if you want to keep this thing going, then you are going to need to make sure that you are always putting yourself first. I have a model. I'm doing a series called the 40 Mantras of Money. And one of the is pay yourself. Pay yourself, Black women first. You take care of yourself first. You put your sleep first. You put your self care first. You put your mental health first. You put your finances first. You put yourself first. Because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it.
Do you think, at a core level, when you mention the workhorse, do you think if the average black man seeing a white woman being a workhorse, that he would try to lighten the load, or do you think that the average black man can see the work on the black woman and say, is she doing too much? Or can we recognize it? What do you think?
I'm going to say this: the critical mass of Black men will not do that for a Black woman, but they will for a white woman. Didn't we just have a live about the pearly oyster thing?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Look what they
yeah. Okay, so when you was talking about pain, so you even think from a black male's POV, we can't recognize pain on a black woman, like we don't, because our go-to are probably what, suck it up, or you being too emotional, or it ain't that bad. Like we don't, we think her pain tolerance is high, so we could push her to the limit.
well, that's what the medical books are saying, but they're not reading that. So they recognize that she's experiencing pain. They don't care. A critical mass don't care because again, it's about him. She's
Mm.
here for use. You are here to serve me in some type of way. But there is a critical mass of Black men that do think that way. They see women out of utilization, not as a human.
Hmm. So you when you mention the heart, so a woman can really die of a broken heart, for real, for real.
Yes, yes. That's why we have heart attacks, heart disease, stroke,
Okay, so
complicated diabetes. That's all
describe
the
that.
heart.
So it's so that's bigger than just, hey, that's bigger than, say, a man, like, this is not working out no more. You go your way, I go mine, right? So it's deeper than that. So how it's from your experience, what is the traumatizing things that are occurring outside of, y'all just not a right fit and it was just a breakup?
Unrequited love. Black women are not being loved on back. We're not being loved back, but we give so much love. We give, we give, we give, and not realizing that we're giving so much that we're being sucked dry. So that's what's happening energetically. You're being sucked dry. You're trying to give. You're trying to have some you're not having reciprocity. Thank you. There's no reciprocity. You're continually giving to people. to jobs, to your community, to your church or your faith-based organization. Black women have been used. So that's why there's overworking herself out of, need to survival, yes, which is another area. Stress. Again, Black women are under amounts of stress.
Okay, so question. A lot of the majority of black women in America are faith-based women. Even if they're not, they go every day. At their core, they're not esoteric or they're not into the cult. They are raised Christian Jesus women, right?
Mhm.
If black women are this unhealthy, but the majority of them are faith-based women, how come they're not getting the love from the relationship with that specific religion? What's the disconnect? Because that faith, I would assume, from this powerful thing, I should see it on your face, right? I should see it in your being. You should not be this unhealthy with that much prayer and that much faith. What's going on here?
I'm going to say two different things. I'm going to give from what I believe from my perspective, from my experience, and then also what we've seen in studies. Um, in my experience, because I grew up religious, both my parents were ministers, and the idea was always that it will get done. Just give it to God, but keep grinding. And for me, my disconnect was that it was easier to just believe it'll go away than to really look at what is. Okay, what is my blood sugar level? What am I eating? Who do I need to remove from my life? That was a lot easier to just give it to God and keep doing what I'm doing than to really take an account of what is happening around me and what I am participating in. The other part of it, from what we've seen, because again, the study I worked on was specifically looking at Black women in stroke. And part of it, we were looking at, again, the faith based. And we were asking a question. One of the questions that we were posing ourselves was, is Black women's faith the reason why they're not healing or recovering, excuse me, the word's recovery, recovering as well as other groups? And just from our focus groups, now back to the patients' focus groups, a lot of the Black women would say things like, well, God wouldn't put more on me than I could bear.
Hmm.
Well, he must knew I was a worthy opponent, and that's coming from this idea of Job, like this is
Hmm.
something God put onto me. God gave this to me, not taking the account that, well, could it be that, we weren't allowed to mental stress at the time, but could it be that your health choices? Could it be your lack of support? Could it be the food deserts? Could it be not knowing how to properly prepare your vegetables? Because we're eating vegetables, but we're stewing them, over stewing them. We're cooking all the nutrition out of them. We're putting a lot of salt and other things on top of it, right? Could that not be a contributor? But it was more easier to give it to something else than me taking account of what I need to do and change, or looking at
Now,
the facts of that.
oh, okay. So what I'm about to ask you, this is you probably suggest something back or based on what you've seen. From your experience, when women, but black women specifically, begin to start a healing journey inside and out and they begin looking better, what spiritual or religious practice are they into from your experience?
Um, if they are of, let's say, Christianity, they are someone like a Tabitha Brown.
Okay.
And because I can't say that specifically if you are of a what they call New Age spirituality that you're more healthier. I can't say that. I think it really comes from someone who centers themselves and has self preservation. That's what I think the only difference is when a Black woman centers herself. It doesn't really matter the religious or spiritual affiliation with that.
Okay, so let's run with that right there. A woman hearing this, I'm like, you know what? This is confirmation. Tomorrow morning, what does it look like? Centering herself, like a lot of where do they even start? You know, a lot of it's a lot of strong black women that are probably in the cloud listening. Where does the strong black woman start tomorrow? No, tonight. Where does she start when she gets off this video? Where does she start?
Well, as a former strong black woman, what for me, what it well, it was that health scare. What is what started it for me? But you don't have to wait till a health scare, ladies. Today, you can take account today that you matter more than anything else in this world. To you, not to your parents, not to the people you're connected to. You matter. That to me is the first step, is when you are able to say that I matter, me, what does me want? What does me want to have? What is my desire? To me, that's the first step. Because once you decide to choose you, anything that is presented to you, you can ask yourself, does this benefit me? Does this make me feel better? And if it doesn't, make a choice that will. So that's the thing I say. So I had to do this one time. I had my mother. I'll just say this. My mother used to call me all the time, and when she would call, it would be, hey daughter, how you doing? And before I had time to say how I was doing, she would just go into this immediate dump of, oh, this is happening, and da da da, and just this emotional dump. And that would go on for about 30 minutes to an hour. Then I would try to walk her through her emotions, and it was a complete draining experience, right? When I decided that day, after those days of that health scare, and I chose me, she called me and I felt anxiety. And I said, well, I can answer this and I know what's going to happen, or I could let that phone ring and go about my day. And at that moment, I made a choice to go about my day. And that's happened enough times that now when my mother calls me, she no longer emotionally dumps on me. I put my boundaries up, because the boundaries is about what you're going to do. It has nothing to do with other people. It is what you're going to do. So she could keep calling me and wanted to emotionally dump, but I don't got to answer that. Honestly, I could put her on silent, and you don't even got to get me. I could block. So that to me is the first step.
How would women know if they have a wounded womb?
A wounded womb.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things too. So remember, we want to remember the mind, the heart, and the womb. Well, I can't say remember. You guys may not know this. Excuse me. The heart, mind, and womb are actually connected, and the throat. Can't miss the throat, but we'll get to that. The mind, the heart, and the womb. There's a direct line connection, right? And the center for us as the women is our heart, because the heart is pumping blood to both the mind, the brain, and the womb. So if you're already having some type of heart issue, right, and it's going to affect the womb as well. So there are a lot of womb issues that a lot of Black women experience. They experiencing heavy periods. We're experiencing PCOS. We're experiencing irregular periods. So there's a which is a hormonal issues that are happening within that, because again, your nutrition affects your hormones, which affects your mind and your womb. Nothing's disconnected. Everything's connected. I'm going to grab my charger real quick because I don't want
Okay.
my laptop to die.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Excuse
Okay.
me.
Okay. 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 So hey, I appreciate everybody being here. Um, um, if you want your question read, go ahead and put it on the super chat so you can ask Miss Tahiry anything you want to ask. And then after, she's also going to give you contact information for anybody that wants to follow up and chop it up and take it a step further, because this is only the meat, the crust that she's discussing. So it's a lot of places that she can go. So if a woman is, how would a woman know an hour, 2 hours in advance that she's going to experience a stroke?
You won't. That's the thing about stroke. It sneaks on you. So, again, stroke is based off cardiovascular issues. So if you already have diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, then you are more prone to having a stroke. And the stroke will happen because of those ongoing comorbidities, right? So these are the signs of stroke. I'm going to mention the signs of stroke because it's important, because this is the part that tripped me out. When I was doing my study, it was at the medical university in the state I was in, and our population was age 45 to 65. And I have to go to the emergency rooms to find new patients, new stroke patients that were coming in the emergency rooms. And when I was given the list of patients on the floor, I was overly whelmed by how many Black women in their 20s were having stroke. And of these Black women that were in their 20s having a stroke, they were either postpartum or due to have, or were in labor, or were there because they were going into labor. So it is happening at a much younger age, particularly if you are a Black woman who already has these issues, and you may get it while you're pregnant, because most people, this happened to a close family member of mine, she didn't become diabetic until her pregnancy, and then she became preeclamptic. She was preeclamptic afterwards. So
What's that mean?
preeclampsia is now it is affects women while we're pregnant. So it's typically when it's like a sugar, your sugar levels are so high that the body is now it's fighting itself and the fetus.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So that's in the nutshell of what it experiences. But let's get into some of the warning signs of stroke. Typically, stroke happen when you're having a stroke. These are the warning signs to look for, because this is when you're happening. You're not going to have the day before symptom and then you have a stroke the following day. It's instantaneously. So if there's numbness either on one side of the body or in your arms, your legs, or in your face, that's something to be aware of. If there's drooping of the face on one side, so let's say, the eye and the face starts to droop on one side, that is an indicator that this person is most likely having a stroke. Another symptom is a severe headache that just came out of nowhere, along with numbness in either one of the extremities. And then, so the acronym is FAST, which is like look at the face. A is look at the arm or the legs. S is speech. So either speech becomes extremely slow, or they become unable to understand what you're saying because they're having the stroke. And then T is time, because time is of the essence. With every 1 minute a person's having a stroke, they are losing 3.6 million brain cells.
Mm. So okay. So I can't say what where women are a lot of places. So if a woman feels herself having a stroke, what do you do? What do you do in that moment?
If But that's the thing, because again, strokes come in two types. It's either going to be the blood vessel that's being blocked, which is that's called a TIA, or transient ischemic stroke, or it's a bursting of a blood vessel, which is the hemorrhaging stroke. So you're bleeding on your brain. So it's not much that one can do from themselves when they're having a stroke. It's going to take their connections, their people close to them, to recognize it and be the ones to call 911.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So the common denominator of stroke, cardiovascular, and diabetes is stress. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
common denominator.
Common denominator.
On top of other things like your nutrition or lack of nutrition.
Okay. And from your experience, the common denominator for black women specifically being stressed is a relationship with XYZ.
Yeah,
Family,
to their
something.
children, the
Okay.
relationship to their grandchildren, the relationship to the man in their life.
What would from your experience, how would you rank it? A, B, C, like from the like when you look into this woman's life, what's always the common denominator?
I'll start from the lowest to the most. So children, grandchildren, which is kind of tied in with their children, and then their partner.
The partners at the bottom.
Well, the top. Sorry, I started with the low. So
Partners at the
partners
top.
at the top. Yeah. So children, grandchildren, which is still kind of like the children, but then the partner.
Okay, so I don't know how you quantify this, but so
We
what's
can
the
look
difference?
at studies and the statistics of the women who were partnered versus the ones that weren't.
You did?
I didn't bring that up, but there you can we can pull these up.
Shoot. Wait, before you do it, I just have this question
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
for your experience. So when a white woman is being strong and she's married to a white man, is her symptoms and her and is her breaking down the same as when a black woman is being strong with her man?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Is your question that a black woman who's married to a white
No,
man?
no, no. When a white woman is with a white man, and let's say she's strong, or she's doing
The
everything the
girl
black woman is
boss.
doing,
She's a
right?
girl
Yeah,
boss.
the boss, right, right. Okay, what's the difference in the situations? Same dynamics. She's strong over there. She's doing everything. Children, the man is being a man, and the black woman, same dynamics. Do the same woman experience the same breakdown, or is it different?
Um, well, they're still depending on their diet and experience of stress. They can, but it would be more likely for the black woman because of her the levels of type of stress she has. So a girl boss white woman that's married to a white man may not experience the same levels of heart problems and other those comorbidities because of their lifestyle that they have together. So they're both bossing it up together. But there is an interesting population of white men that are coming up that are against that. So that's interesting to see what that dynamic is going to do as well. Versus the black woman who is carrying on. Because again, I want to frame the strong black woman trope as a mental health disorder. So it's not a girl boss because girl boss is more something these girl white women are doing to kind of get their autonomy versus the strong black woman is out of survival and depression. So that's where it differs for me in that regard.
Okay, so the difference, damn, so the difference between the girl boss on the left and the black woman on the right, it sounds like the difference is blackness.
Mm, yeah, and in their relationship because of their racial class.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, go into those statistics about those partnered up and unpartnered. What does that look like?
Pull that up. And I want you guys to know too, because I don't think a lot of people realize that you guys have access to these health journals. So the Journal of Medicine, the Journal of Nursing, et cetera, et cetera. There is a paywall to these things. But if you have an edu, a .edu email, I say stay with that. Stay enrolled at some school, wink, wink, so that you can have access to these type
Mm,
of things at a discounted rate.
that's a game right there. And
This
just to be clear what she's saying, so everyone let this sticks. The strong black woman, and I'm gonna put in the ride or die, is a mental health issue. So let that sit for a second. It's not just I'm being strong. And we already differentiate the difference between being responsible and being strong. Because just because you're strong don't mean you're being responsible. Okay. It's on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to apologize. I'm not gonna be able to find this because I got to put different factors in it. But
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, so excuse me, I'm not able to quantify it with links, but I can definitely on the replay put some links in for you guys and articles and things that you guys
Go
can
ahead.
look.
I'm gonna charge my computer. So you go ahead. So whatever you want to just build on, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read some of these comments here. Let me go in and check my alumni email facts. Let me tell you guys something. The greatest tool that we have in our hands right now is a library card and an email. Utilize your libraries, y'all, and befriend your librarians. You are friend with a librarian, I'm telling you, they put you on game. And I learned that my undergrad year. I befriended one of the librarians on my campus, and she ended up telling me, based on the type of classes I was taking, I don't need to buy my book at the bookstore. She'll find the books for me, and she sure did. Her make friends with your librarians. I ain't
So I
never
got
spent no money on no books.
so I got a question. So we heard for the last couple years what men want from women, right? Black women specifically, like feminine, fit, friendly. Is there health benefits to that, or is that loaded with bad health? What does that look like?
I like that they use the word fit, but they're talking aesthetics. They're not talking about her health.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, just because somebody's skinny don't mean they healthy. We saw that with the very person that coined that term.
Okay, fair enough. So what when a black woman goes to the hospital, what should be in her mind, or and should she go alone?
Never, if you can help it, if you can so help it, never go alone. And this is where I'm going into my side of advocacy. And having advocates is one very helpful because they can speak for you when you can't. Particularly if you had a stroke, and it's particularly your stroke affects your tongue or your speech, you're not able to talk. You may not be fully cognizant. So it's good to have someone that's able to speak for you, to advocate for you. Another layer of connection is your associations. Black women, we have to be affiliated to something. So, yes, a church, but you need to be in an organization. You need to be affiliated at something in your work career, in your career, at something, have affiliations, right? Because I shared the story about my sister. If it wasn't for me in my health education background and the work I've done with Black women in health, and my father's wife, who was a charge nurse, we would have been able to advocate for her in a way that was effective. So we do have advocacy, but we're talking about effective advocacy. And so, whatever you go to your health professionals for, I think it's best to have someone with you, or before you go there, have a series of questions that you want to ask, whether you think it sounds silly or not. Because if your health professional is not willing to walk you through your health, the medications or their diagnosis, et cetera, it please by all means find you another doctor, because I'm telling you, you can find another doctor. And it's layered, because that also is a privileged thing to say, because there are those who have the privileges of being able to move around and find doctors. But I'm also going to say, even go as far as finding holistic healthcare providers, somebody that's science based is very important, because there's a lot of people who are saying things on the internet. And I'm going to give a very, very clear example. Dr. Sabi. Now, Dr. Sabi wasn't wrong in some of what he said. However, because it's become mainstream, a lot of the talking points are very inaccurate when it comes to alkaline and what it means to be alkaline and acidic. So there's a lot of people who don't understand anything about chemistry and talking on, oh, drink alkaline water, alkaline, that you need to be alkaline, you need to be more alkaline. No, to be too alkaline, you need to be dead. You need to have a certain pH level, yes, in your blood, but that's a topic for another day. But so it's going to be very important to be a self advocate and self student. You have to be a student of yourself. That is what putting self first means. When I decided that I wanted to be a student of myself, when I entered my 30s, I said, you know what? I don't want to wait till I'm in my late 40s or 50s to go through menopause. What do I need to know now so that I can prepare myself for menopause? Because at the time, my mother wasn't trying to talk to me about it. My grandma, she was talking to me a little bit, but she wasn't really talking about it. So, like, the elder women around me were not mentioning the phase of the changes of menopause. And I'm like, well, that's going to be inevitable if I plan to live. And so I need to know how this works. So I decided to become a student of myself and test and go get tests of my female panel test to know my blood levels, to know my hormonal levels, so I can at least have a baseline. So by the time I'm in my 40s or to my 50s, I can now understand what is happening within my hormonal changes of the body, of where I once was to where I may be at the time, and what I may need to do in my nutrition and in my lifestyle to ensure that I go through that phase when the time comes, and as smooth as you can. But I don't feel like it has to be a death sentence to us.
How can black women know their diet is off from checking their womb from the yoni? How can black women use their yoni to know something is off? Like, what are some indicators? Is it scent? Is it discharge? Is it and the surprisingly, not surprisingly, a lot of grown women don't know down there. They don't have a relationship down there outside of being intimate with the man, but they don't know how to look at signs going on with their body to tell they're off. So better question. What are some signs that is going on downstairs for women to know, like, yo, you need to look into that 911 outside of a STD, just health concerns, and it's showing up down there.
Well, I think first is language. You gotta use the language. Know what your vulva, your labia, your clitoral, your vaginal. I think language is important. But another layer that's being going to be missed again is that a lot of women, are black women particularly, are not embodied. And what I mean by that is that we are not fully present in the body. We may be focused and present, right? Cognizant with you, but doesn't necessarily mean I feel in my body. So, and I say that too because I didn't realize until maybe about 7, 8 years ago that I was a shallow breather. And that came from anxiety. So that's one aspect. If you're not even realizing that you're not even taking in, that you're not even breathing or taking in air, that's an indicator that you're not even present in the body. So to eat, before you can even get to like what's happening in my yoni space, in my womb space, I have to allow myself to be aware of that I'm in my body. And that right there, I will admit, for me was scary when I decided to sit with myself in a silent. Actually, it was actually just goddess, whatever you want to call it, was so perfect. We ended up having a hurricane at this time, and so the power got knocked out in my house, and it was completely black, and you just hear the wind. And I decided at that moment, I'm just going to close my eyes or just be in this darkness and just be one with the darkness. Like, it wasn't like that con, like just be one with the darkness, but just be in a meditative state. And when I did that, I just asked myself to show me what I need to see. And that's when I started to become aware of, like, oh my God, what's going on with my shoulders? And my partner at the time, who was a massage therapist, would tell me, like, you need to learn how to relax, like relax your shoulders. He would try to massage me and he was like, you're tense. And I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm fine. Not knowing I was living my life like this. I didn't know how to be relaxed. I was very tense. So when I was in that meditative state, I became aware of my shoulders and my neck. Then I started to become aware of this pain in my back. Then I started to become aware of my knees, because I always had issues with my knees. So at that moment, I was embodied and I was like, oh my God, I'm totally disassociated from my body. So that's one we're going to have to work on as Black women, is to do practices, either with you can do it on your own or with connected with the healer, to sit with yourself, to be just aware, because your body's telling you. Remember, Dr. Basil's book says the body keeps score, right? And the book outlines how trauma manifests in the body. And we know the body is an informational vehicle. So there's information in the body. So we're disassociated. You're not even aware of, like, oh, there's a pain in my arm, or I'm numb in my left hand. All right. You have to be embodied to even be aware of any type of change, outside of something physical like discharge coloring. It may not say something specifically about the heart, but it could be telling you something specifically what's happening in the womb space, that there is something off. Your pH may be off. There may be maybe experiencing PCOS. You may be experiencing endometriosis. Like those factors can show too. So, but the most important thing is you're going to have to be in your body.
What is pH balance?
Your pH balance, it is the level of the balance between acid and alkaline.
And what throws a woman's pH balance off?
Soaps can throw it off, lotions, pretty much almost everything that's on those drugstore counters can really throw off the pH balance. Not wearing cotton lined underwear can throw it off. Sex with males penises can throw it off. Because they're at a base state and we're already in an acidic state, so that can throw it off too. His semen can throw your pH balance off. Sugar, so a high glucose diet can throw it off. So your nutrition, lack of potassium, magnesium. So there's a lot of factors that are playing into what's throwing off our pH balance and our vulva space.
How will women know? You just mentioned something. How will women know if they're shallow breathers? Like what can you give us an example of like
Yeah.
so shallow versus
Well,
what they should be doing? What's the difference?
like because I wasn't aware of it, so when I started to just sit and just breathe in, like be present with me breathing, like, oh, I'm consciously breathing in, and I started to realize, I started to feel my lungs expand, and I started to see my diaphragm expand. I said, you know what, I haven't breathed like that since high school band camp days. Okay, I used to play the flute, y'all. I haven't breathed since fully in my lungs since I was in high school. And that tripped me out. And I was about 28 at the time when I came to that realization. I was like, oh, okay, I'm a shallow breather, because I found I was tense in my shoulders. Like, okay, so not only am I not breathing, I'm holding my breath. So many of us are waiting to exhale. And I'm not talking about the movie.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Do you think that black women are making mating choices, and their mating choices is because of the health state that they're in?
I think that definitely,
Are they related to each other?
I definitely believe so, because again, your emotional, mental health manifests physically. So if you're already in a state of feeling unworthy, if you're already in an environment where you're not valued, right? Where you're constantly giving, and trying to prove your worth, you're going to attract a relationship where you have to keep trying to prove yourself. Prove why I should marry you. Prove why I should be with you. Prove why, what you bring to the table, to prove why, it's always this level of trying to do, and it's never enough. It'll never be enough. So yes, your emotional way of how you partner with someone definitely is going to manifest in your health.
Okay, so in black women trying to wifey themselves up to men, like, hey, see me, is that strong black woman? Is that what do you think about that? Of like going to the wife school, and you got femininity coaches. Is that proving? Is that the
Yeah,
same thing?
yeah, that's the same thing. It's still, it's just on the opposite scale. So if you want to take away from I'm trying to work as hard as I can to I'm trying to prove as hard as I can, I'm a woman, I'm feminine. I want let's put this in perspective. Black women were not associated to what femininity and womanhood. Our womanhood, just in the last maybe 20 years, has been um, accepted by greater society, if you want to call it that. So much of Black women had to prove their worthiness of just being a female, a woman, somebody that's worthy of what womanhood in America says womanhood is. So as an American, of course I want to live the American dream of woman. But my hair, my skin, you know, I don't have that. So I compensate to feel beautiful. I compensate with the weaves and the wigs and the lashes and this external exertive way of trying to prove my feminine value. This is a layered situation here.
So, do you think black woman's womanhood is performative? In what we look at it as now, do you think it's performative? And do you think the performance is based on the health?
Well, yeah, again, because I'm associating that with health, our mental and emotional health, and how we're showing up physically. And I think that is something to say, maybe why we are long to partner. I know for me, it was religious programming too. So again, it's a psycho spiritual level too. So it's a lot of factors. Let me tell you, when we say we're at war, Black women are at war in every angle. You're psychologically at war, right? Your spirituality is at war because your psycho spirituality ties in. So, from my perspective, when I was raised and taught that women were the purveyors of evil because we ate of an apple, right? And we were cursed with what clinging to your husband and cursed with menstrual problems or something like that, and birth pains, excuse me, birth pains, right? And what that did to me, because I was 11 years old and I remember this sermon at my church. It was about the evils of what women did, and how we were cursed with all these things. And I can remember at 11 years old just feeling like, oh my God, that's really, they're terrible. Oh my God. And that day when I went home, I started my menstrual. I completely just, I felt so bad. I felt so bad because I internalized that message that I, myself being female, was evil, and my existence brought evil in. And that I carried that psychologically. It wasn't always at the forefront of my mind, but it was there, right? So if I'm believing psychologically that my existence as being in a female body is evil, my body is the purveyor of sin, I birth people into sin, what level of worth will I have? And then on top of that, I'm dealing with the factors that Black women are dealing with: the colorism, the featureism, the texturism, social economic class, all of that layering issue. You're going to want to try to prove
Hmm.
you're worthy. At
Hmm.
least that was my experience.
Who gets the most hysterectomies?
At the time, right now, it's Black women are at the highest.
And explain that. What is a hysterectomy?
That is the removal of the uterus.
And why would someone remove someone's uterus?
Because it's a lot more money to cut it out than just to cure it.
But how does that seed get planted into a woman's mind that they need to have that procedure done?
Well, if you're being told by your doctor that you're trusting, again, it's important to have advocates, but it's also important to ask questions and do research. But again, if you didn't know that up to that point, you, doctors will more likely just want to push that onto you as a Black woman. Oh, we need to remove your uterus. Oh, we need to take out half your uterus. Oh, we need to take away your ovaries. A lot of these procedures, even I want to say about up to 50%, if not more, of the C-sections that are taking place in the hospital are completely unnecessary. It's big money. I just want us to know it's big money.
So this
And
is a business.
yes, big
Okay.
pharma.
Okay. So my are black women treated differently in the, the hospital when they're unmarried?
I'm gonna say from I cannot say it's across the board. And it's across social economic status. Beyonce shared after she had her twins in Vogue magazine how she had suffered from in the hospital from not they weren't listening to her. Serena Williams have shared from her experience of having her child, which I think is very interesting. She wants to go back and do that again. Um, Dr. Joy DeGruy, who was the author of who authored or coined the term post traumatic slave syndrome, her daughter-in-law, who was educated, I believe, was a PhD doctor, what was not listened to in the hospital when she had her baby, and she died. So this is across socioeconomic status. This is across partnered or not. My sister, who was unpartnered at the time, but has great health insurance. She's on my dad's military insurance, top 9 insurance. It didn't matter. They still did not. I just want to give this story real quick because when she had the baby, she almost had the baby in the car, but I pulled up right on time to the ER. If I would have parked the car, I would have missed the whole thing. So she gave birth to the baby instantly like that. She had the baby on a Saturday morning, and later that day, she asked the nurse who was caring for her that she asked for a lactation nurse because she wants to breastfeed. That nurse told us, and I was there, oh, we don't do lactation on Saturdays. And I'm like, that's weird. Babies are born every day. But I live in a weird state, so I'm like, okay, it's COVID, because it was kind of like, it was too post-COVID. So I'm thinking maybe it's a COVID thing, maybe they don't have it. So I wish I would have pushed it. Didn't push it, long story short. She goes home the next day. She ends up coming back 2 days later because she ended up getting mastitis, which is an infection in the breast, and she ended up having an infection in her uterus, because we later found out, after we went through this whole bullshit with them to do a freaking MRI, to find out she had some uterus still left in her. Some of her placenta was still left in her. So not only did she have this infection in her breast, she also had an infection in her uterus, and it took hell and high water to get them just to give her some of the medication. Mind you, my sister is extremely skinny. She's probably a $110 wet. Okay, she's super skinny. So when she was puffed up, her face and her breast and her body was so puffy that her skin was shiny. That's how badly swollen she was. And these people weren't giving her anything to relieve the swelling or to fight the infection.
What are black men doing wrong as a whole, as a collective, in regards to black women's health? What are the blind spots? What are we not seeing? What are we not seeing? What are we aiding to? That you can say is a direct effect of interacting with black men.
I the easiest thing will say they don't care, but I think it's more so they don't know. I just
Okay.
think it's just the ignorance of what is taking place. They just don't know. Even if you are highly educated, if you don't have some type of health information, health background or knowledge, you won't really know what to ask.
What should men be asking? Like, for a man that's in a relationship or has sisters, aunties, uncles, aunties, sometimes the same, right? But what are the questions that men should be asking? Like, what can they ask? Any guys that's hearing this that have women in his life, the ones that are proactive, what can they say to their mom and their sisters or their lady?
Yeah, well, if you're, if your lady, y'all live together or whatever, I think it's ask her how she's feeling, and she might brush it off like, oh, I feel good. Like, no, baby, I need to know, how's your body feel. Like, I think that's a good thing to ask her. Ask her to be present with herself. Like, let's take a minute just to do a breathing. Let's be present. I think that is so helpful to help women, because women, I think they say men's minds, as an example or an analogy, are like waffles. They're compartmentalized,
Hmm.
right? And women are like a bowl of spaghetti or a bowl of noodles. It's just everything all at once. And we're literally, our mind is everything at once, because a lot of us are supervisors or managers of our family, and also in our work fields, right? So we're always managing something. We're always thinking about the next. Oh, taking care of this, doing the dishes, get the kids ready. Oh, school's coming. Oh, don't forget the doctor's appointment. Let me get my man's doctor appointment. Most men don't go to their doctor's appointments. Or sorry, most men that go to their doctor's appointments, it's because the woman in their life is the one that booked the appointment.
Hmm.
Men don't take an active role in their own health. So now they're going to go back and say maybe that may not be helpful. If he's not already taking an active role in his health, he may not even think to take an active role in hers. But if you are under the sound of this message, then yes, do that for you and for her. Let's take a minute to be aware of ourselves right here in this moment. That'll be very helpful for each of you to then start making choices together on how we can have a better lifestyle.
What are black women doing wrong in their sex lives that is having an effect on their health?
Well, the girls are celibate, so I don't know.
That's a minority.
I know, but I will say this: there is a more conversations, and I'm going to facilitate this conversation on my channel about why are the girls choosing celibacy. But for those who are still active, right? I think for me, this because I'm a big proponent on sexual health awareness. There is so much misinformation on what it is that we should be doing or how we should be participating in our sexual behavior. I'm a big proponent on get tested. If you know you want to be active, and that's male or female, make no difference. If you know you want to be active with either sex, you should always want to know your status. That is one of, I think, the biggest problems amongst Black women. If we look at the STI rates, then yeah, not knowing your status and your partner's status before engaging.
But is there a wrong way that black women are being intimate that is affecting their health? Like the actual act. So we talked about the wounded womb earlier, right?
Hmm.
So I know a lot of women engage with a man in a way that may trigger or add to the womb being wounded. So is there a healthy way outside of condom stuff like that for black women's mental health, overall immune system? Oh, is there healing sex for
Yeah,
black women
I
to
think I think
achieve?
I think I understand what you're trying to how you're. I think the
Okay.
way you're framing it, but I think I understand where you're going. Okay. So first thing first, when it comes to anything that you want to do, women, do it because that's what you want to do. All right. So if
What
you
do you
want,
mean by that? What do you mean by that? Well,
yeah,
because the average guy is think, of course she wants to do it because she's here, right? So what do you mean by that? Because that's what you want to do. What's that mean?
yeah. This is why this is something I live by. Whatever I do it because I want to. So if I eat a red velvet cake, I did that because I wanted it. I take myself accountable to what I am, what I do. If I decide I want to have sex with someone, I can. If I decide not to, I can't. I don't have to. So the point, I think a lot of times women are doing things for not for themselves, but for someone else. Because sometimes sex is like another job. Let me do this so he stayed. So it's again checking your own motivations on why you want to do something, if that's even what you want to do, because that causes a lot of trauma, because now you're giving yourself to someone that you may not want to and may not even be present for. And that right there to me brings off takes out the equilibrium in the body.
So yes, okay. So I think you understood the question I was asking. Of like, is there a way that women can heal their womb being intimate with a man, and if so, what would that look like?
Well, this is the thing about sex. Sex is sacred and it's profane. And I want people to realize there's no love in sex. Like,
Wait,
no love.
wait. Hold on. Say that, say that louder. What do you mean by that? Like, there's no love in sex? Okay, go ahead.
No. And I think that's another thing that's killing women too, because again, that goes back to the heart. Unrequited love. You're adding more stress, because a lot of our programming has, as women or females, has been that, oh, sex is for love and marriage. You have to be married. Well, married because you love your husband, you want to give that to him. So sex is kind of programmed to us something that we give, or and that we need to protect,
Mhm.
and sex is something that men experience or get to take. So when I say there's no love in sex, there's no love in a penis inserting a vagina, or a vagina on a vagina, or a penis to anything else, right? There's no love. It's a physical act. That's all it is. Now, because we are fully embodied human beings, multi-dimensional human beings, we have the level of our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual component that we can be in fully alignment with the body. And so if we decide to engage, I'm aware that I'm engaging either on the body level, just because I just want to make my body feel good, and I can engage in this in a way that I want to be emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually connected with this person in a conscious way, and particularly in a two-way street. So what they call tantra sometimes, what they call many other different spiritual modalities that involve sexuality and chi and energy, which is again part of that more Eastern belief systems.
So, so here, because I know, especially a lot of people coming from poverty, certain experiences. Okay, for medical reasons, because they're just not right. What are the characteristics of somebody who should not be being intimate with someone?
Are you saying
Yeah,
physically,
physic.
emotionally?
Well, period. What is the characteristics of somebody who should just shut everything down right now? You don't need to be engaging physically. You don't need to be getting close to anyone right now because of any because you're sick. Like what does that look like of somebody that's like, yo, put it like this. Give me the character of a woman that needs a man diet right now. What does that look like?
Um, a man
A
what?
diet.
A man
Yeah.
diet? Oh, okay. Well, this is what
Well,
I think. I think,
man detox. You need a man
yeah.
detox.
Well, this is the thing. Just how the physical body needs a detox, or what we call fasting in their spiritual communities. I feel like your sexual energy needs the same thing. So there are times when we're engaging, and there's times when we're fasting, or we call celibate. So I feel like there's a season for celibacy, like there's a season for engaging, and this is what I preach on my page, because I've been caught. I caught myself being celibate out of circumstance and not by choice. And when I just so I want women to choose celibacy, and when you choose it, what is your reason for here? Because with fasts, when you're fasting, right, on a fasting diet, whatever that is, or a spiritual fast, there's a reason to it. Give yourself a reason on why you're choosing celibacy, so your celibacy can get add to you. Because if you're just celibate for the sake of being celibate, you're actually doing more harm to your spiritual, emotional, mental body than if you're choosing it on a conscious, reasonable level.
Back to the heart. How can a black woman right now, today, sitting watching this, tell her she got a bad heart if the heart is bad? Just sitting, listen right now. She went throughout her day. Like, how can she tell that her heart is bad?
When I say do a body scan, so if you're able to feel yourself consciously in your body, what in your where in your body is the awareness coming? And if you feel it in your heart, you might feel a sharpness, you might feel your heart skipping a few beats, and that's something that you want to definitely be aware of, because there's a possibility you may have an atrial fibrillation, which is really sometimes called AFib, which is irregular heartbeat. So just whatever feeling that you come, and it could be a positive feeling too. So it doesn't have to mean you're going to feel bad feelings. You can feel positive feelings as well too. But we don't want to ignore discomfort, and a lot of us ignore discomfort because we're too busy rummaging through. Like, a lot of us have got caught in the strong black woman archetype in some way, form, or fashion. And I want us as black women to give ourselves grace. You, my sister, you deserve grace, and give it to yourself. Because a lot of us do not know this. I was really I was surprised at how many people, when I was going through my work and my studies, didn't understand the connection to smoking and diabetes and high blood pressure. They didn't understand it was connected. A lot of people didn't understand the connection between bread and diabetes. The sugar, the glucose. So a lot of us, there's a lot of ignorance. So I want us to be center ourselves and be a student of yourself. Learn as much as you can about yourself chemically, biologically, mentally, emotionally, artistically. Learn, be a student of yourself. Go to the library and get you some health books and start looking at things. I don't know, go to a library and get an art book, whatever it is. Be a student of yourself. Ask yourself, how do I feel? And I think another thing, because this is a hard thing, because this is emotions. A lot of us do not know how to name our emotions because we probably grew up in some type of environment where we weren't allowed to express. I know I wasn't growing up. That was not what you were doing in this black house. You
So when
either
I say you're
sad or
emotional,
happy.
that's not when I say you're emotional, that's not naming the emotion, right? I'm
Mm-mm.
just that's a blanket thing. But I'm
Yeah.
not oh, okay. So when I asked you about I'll let you get right back to it. You just pinged right there. But when I asked you about what men can do, that's probably what we can stop doing. It's calling you emotional because that doesn't allow you to unpack what's going on right now, right? It's just because you could be angry, you could be depressed, right? You could be have anxiety, and I just put the blanket over emotion. Stop being emotional. I need you to do this right now, right? So you don't have time to. Okay, so now
Because
that
our
means
superpower is our emotions. Y'all heard of the group called MAD? MADD? It was mothers angry, or oh, actually, well, angry, but mother. It was, I think it was
mothers
MAD.
against drunk driving.
Yes, but
Yeah,
because these women were mad,
yeah,
emotional,
right,
but
right,
they
right,
got shit done.
right.
Then we learned that from a Nancy on American Gods.
Hmm.
Get shit done.
Okay, so that means that the women have to be in environments where there's good communicators.
Yeah,
Because if I say stop being emotional, I'm kind of snatching your humanity away, right?
exactly.
Because I'm not asking you, okay, what's wrong? How do you feeling? Because 9 times out of 10, if I'm saying stop being emotional, we're in fight or flight. We have to do something right now. I need you to show up. So now you got to take on. Now you have to be strong, right? Now you have to be strong. Um,
Can I give you guys a tool?
yeah, shoot.
Yeah, because this helped me because there's an array of emotions besides anger, sad, happy, mad. There's an array of emotions. It's called the Wheel of Emotions. I want you guys to take time to Google the Wheel of Emotions. And I do this with my kids and I do this with myself. I actually keep a copy of the Wheel of Emotion in my pocketbook because every now and then I'll just check in myself, like, you know what? What emotion am I feeling right now? And I'll pull up the Wheel of Emotion and I'll look at it and I'm like, oh, it's this one here. Okay. Now I have a name for this feeling. And now I can either claim this as mine or take an assessment and take an account. Is this even my emotion?
Hmm.
Because that's important. So that is a wonderful tool, the Wheel of Emotions, so that you are able to name. You got to name it so you can either claim it or toss that bitch in the trash.
Hmm. What are what are black women making mistakes with in their diet and how they're eating? I know you mentioned the stress eating and things like that, but the go tos. What are the go tos that's just that you would advise or suggest that they put it down for a second because it might be an addiction going on.
Sugar. So if it's bread, pasta, any of these high carb, anything that's high carb, I say put it down. Put it down if you can.
Anything sugar
'Cause
related.
sometimes you got to ease yourself into it because before I say put it down, I gotta give you guys the proper health way to do it. Ease yourself off it. If take a note of how much you eat, and if you don't know how much, then journal your food for the day. What did I eat this day? And journal that, and then take an account of where does it fall in line on the health. Okay, this is bread. This is pasta. This is okay. These are all glucose based foods. Let's cut back on that there.
Do you think or do you suggest that black women have a hospital team? Meaning, like, you got your club girls, you got your whole partners. Sometimes they don't overlap. Do you think that black women should have a hey girl, I'm going to the hospital, I need you to roll? Somebody that is a good support system in that kind of environment because you suggested don't go alone. So if you're not partnered, who should you what does that look like of you having advocacy in the hospital?
Let's live our best golden girls life in our young age, ladies. Yeah, friends. And this is the thing. This is what this is me. This is what I like to do. If y'all want to do this too, definitely you could do this too. I like to have a team of doctors and then a team of people that I trust that come with me. So when I say I'm a team of doctors, I have a gut health doctor, I have my primary care doctor, you got your vision doctor, I have a cardiovascular doctor, I have a doctor that is specialized in the areas that are affecting me, right? And I actually have a holistic doctor too that work with my healthcare providers. And it took me quite a time to get to this point to have this team of people. And there's a few more doctors I want to add to my team. So, but that comes from being an advocate for yourself, sharing this information with a friend or a partner, whoever who loves and values you too, who's willing to make the step to come with you, or FaceTime. We live in a digital world, y'all. She ain't got to fully come there. They can FaceTime with you, be there with you. Because there might be something that they might pick up, your advocate might pick up that you may not.
Is the, you mentioned gut, is the, is what's happening in the hospital and what is birth control doing to black women's health?
I'm a proponent of birth control. However, I am going to say this. It's definitely something that we should definitely not take lightly. The type of birth control that we use. So I do not, for me, hormonal birth control does not work well for me. Not when I was trying to understand my own body. When I had that health crisis and it put me on this journey of be a student of your own body and your health. I was on the Mirena IUD, which is a hormonal one. And I wasn't having periods with that. And I had that for a few years. And so I was like, I like having a period because I like knowing how to track my cycle. Because even as women, this is something that's interesting. Our nutrition needs changes based on which cycle, which time of our cycle we're in. So your luteal phase is different from your potent phase, which is the I don't know why these words. Mercury retrograde got me jacked up, y'all. Thank you. Please bear with me because my words are getting lost. But each phase of your cycle, you need different nutritional needs. You need different. Your rest levels are different. Your hormonal levels are different, and it is important as women because see, this is where we're batshit crazy for a lot of reasons. We are operating on a 24-day cycle, a 24-hour cycle, which is a masculine cycle. So it's interesting that men are calling women masculine when we're operating on the same cycle as you. We're on a 24-hour day cycle. When actually our cycle as the female body is actually a 28-day cycle. We have
So
our
y'all
cycle.
not on the same time as us.
We're not even on the same timeline, my friend.
Mm.
And because we're not aware of that, due for whatever reasons, because we're not aware of our own bodies, our wombs, and also to maybe the type of birth control we're probably on, or lack of menstrual cycles that we're having due to whatever different womb health problems that we have, we are not able to know which week I am. And this goes into my practical spirituality. This goes into even your manifestations. We talk about manifestation, or we hear it so much, but I'm telling you, a lot of our manifestations are out of alignment because us, who are the magnetizing being, are not even in alignment with our own magnetism energy. So you may thinking that because it's a new moon in the sky, that means it's perfect to manifest, but you might be on a personal full moon based on you're on your period right now, or you're on your post. So it's important to know your body's synchronicity so that you could tap into your own mystical magical power. I do want to give a book. I want to reference a book for you ladies. It is called, I hope you guys can see that. It is called The In Flow by Alyssa Vitti. And this book is about how to unlock your hormonal advantage to revolutionize your life. And she is a gynecologist that shows women how to biohack yourself by following your 4-week plus or minus cycle. Because every week of that so-called cycle, so your cycle is not just your menstrual, it is the entire calendar, monthly calendar. And you need different foods, you need different rest hours, different physical activities, all of that. And she does a wonderful job outlining this in this beautiful book here, as well as Dr. Christine Northrup, who's another one of my favorites.
How
Retired
how do women know when they're having when their period is off? Like what's a 911 that they need to make some changes?
Well, I mean, it's many different things. It could be irregular. It could be that it's never showing up. It could be heavy bleeding. If you are bleeding, I know over 5 days, you are more likely you are more likely hemorrhaging. Some might say over 3 days, but I say if it's over 5, you're more likely hemorrhaging, and that's something that you should definitely look into.
So the 7 day period, that's not a natural flow.
No, it really should not be over 5 days. 3 is optimal, but not over 5.
Okay, so does every woman have the ability to get her cycle to 3 days?
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's different for everybody. However, because some it may just be a 1 day to 2 days. So it's just anything over 5. I just want them to know you're hemorrhaging, and if you're changing your tampons and or pads out, as they say 2 to 3 times in an hour, that's an issue too. That's an issue. So you're
Mm.
hemorrhaging. So you don't even have to wait those many days. If you have to consistently change it out that much in a day, then yeah, there's something that you want to get looked at.
Is there anything that black women should be doing in nature regarding their health?
Yes, honey. This is the thing. This is the thing. If you're going to believe that well, I don't know if everybody believes this. This is my belief based on the science and my spiritual faith. I believe that black women are the original human. She is the only thing that ever existed first, and that we are not outside of nature, but we are nature. And I think it's extremely important that we have our feet touch the ground, because what is the bottom of our feet called?
So,
Soul. That is your soul.
mhm.
Your feet is an absorbent instrument. It absorbs everything. That's why it's important that you get your magnesium, soak your feet, because your feet will take in the magnesium you need, and you may have less leg cramps. Whoever is having leg cramps, your magnesium and your potassium just may be too low.
So what about women that live in a more dense city environment? What are some things
Yeah.
that they can do regarding nature?
Oh, that's me right now. Right now, I live in I'm in the middle of the city, so my window, I see another building. Keeping greenery as much as you can in your home, keeping living plants in your home as much as you can, that helps you stay connected and grounded to the earth-based principle.
Hmm. Is music. Music. So we say, metal apartheid is having an effect on black women. Is music having a negative effect on black women's behavior or a positive effect on black women's behavior? Because I know those sounds and those hurts do something. So, from your experience, is there a sound you would suggest that black women tap into to center themselves?
Well, we got to understand why sound is important. So let's go with this. There has been numerous studies on water, that when you play different genres, let's just say that genres of music, the water molecules respond differently. So on music that was very harsh and bang bang, the water molecules start to spike up, right? They turn into spikes. When the music was more, let's say, instrumental, let's say classical, whatever, the molecules will start to formulate these beautiful rounded shapes, right? So that's what happens with water and music. The body is what 70 to 85% water. So it is important to know that that effect happens to us too, right? So I'm not saying that you can't like what you like, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that. But we want to ensure that we're giving ourselves sounds that are going to that's why they have the frequency hertz that you can find a lot of them on YouTube. Vet them, because there's some duds out there too. But the certain frequency sounds are good for the brain waves. Certain frequency sounds are good for your heart. There's frequency sounds that are good for the womb. I would suggest just buy singing bowls so that you know that you know that you know that you got what you need. So singing bowls, tuning forks, those type of frequency sounds help align the body and help bring a healing energy to that, because again, we're always receiving information. We're always receiving information. So why not give yourself conscious information to receive that's going to put you in an equilibrium of health?
Is there a type of masculinity, the energy, that can offset what black women experience in the hospital?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Can you please say
Okay,
it a different way?
so is there is there something say from a man, masculinity from a man? Is there a type of masculinity that a black woman that is sick, that doesn't know she's sick or she's just going through it, is there a energy that a man can bring that would activate that in her to want to do better, want to get herself together? Is because I see a lot of men want to try to correct women. But is there a type of energy that can make a black woman can start her journey? Is could that be a piece of the puzzle as well?
Well, I just want to say this. When it comes to correction, that goes for any side of the spectrum. Nobody, nobody likes to be preached at, especially if they ain't asked for it. So I gotta be careful with.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
But if you are trying to ease, as I said, this is your partner, this is a gentleman, this is your partner, and then you want to help her make better choices, then I think that the best way to do that is you start doing it for yourself, right? So start bringing in healthier foods in the house, right? You pick up the groceries that day or go to the farmer's market or whatever, right? It's about setting the example. I think the best way of enacting change is being that change, and giving, instead of saying like, hey, you should do this, just you start doing it. And people start to recognize, oh, he doing this, he doing that. Or at least me as a woman, I
Mm.
would say that. And I'm like, let me do something too. Like, okay, what are you into? And maybe she won't do that at all. But it's never good to preach on somebody. Just share. Like, hey, baby, I want to share what I've been learning. I've been learning about calcium, potassium. Actually, you need magnesium and you need these things. I think this is interesting. Whatever you're learning or studying at that time, just share it. Don't preach it, just share it. And then be it. I think that's the best way to ignite change in any person.
Okay. So I'm sure you've heard this, black women have attitudes or they don't know how to talk. A guy will say, all I did was say hi. You know what I mean? And she just snapped at him. So for the men that's listening on the play now and on the playback, do you they should they extend grace because she might be sick, because we don't know about the medical apartheid with black women. We just assume that these women are nasty attitudes, they don't know how to talk to nobody. I can't even approach you, all I said was hi sister, you just don't call me your sister. Or what should the men understand, or how should they receive the medical apartheid of black women now in terms of the approach? Like what how should we interact with black women?
I'm gonna say this because I'm pretty sure the men who are listening, they're on a path of self accountability and self betterment, right? So if you approach a woman and she is rejecting that and that type of response, I think because you guys are here and you guys are aware that not every woman is at that level to receive. So that all you need to do is extend grace. You don't got to go out your way to say anything else to her, but just extend grace and like, okay, I wish that sister gets whatever she needs. Don't say that to her, but you can send that energy out, because that's showing compassion to our fellow people. And the same thing that we can do to each other is to show compassion by sending that energy. Like, you know what? I hope they find what they need. But you don't get to engage with that. So I think that's the level of maturity that whoever has the most understanding of a situation should be the one that's the bigger person.
Could a black man's love for black women, of course the women have to do the work, but
Can I address this comment right
True,
quick? It
please,
said
true.
a lot of guys are underestimating what they did to evoke that response. Yes, and I think that's another thing to bring self-awareness, because this may be the first time some of you men are hearing this stuff about what's happening to women and what's their experience, their lived experience in their bodies. So you may think that hey sister, is a an appropriate way to approach her, right? Because maybe you would have been cool with her saying hey brother to you, but not every woman, particularly black woman, responds well to that. I know
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I mean, depend on the environment where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm at. But you
Mm-hmm.
see, it's so it's again, it's having our own level of self, you know, knowing of self, that if somebody was to even be erupt with my response, that I'm still be secure in myself and like, okay, it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is me, but it's not me at the same time. I
Right.
guess my approach probably was kind of corny or whack, or probably shouldn't approach her that way. But again, it's just having that grace and understanding that not everybody's receptive to the same type of approach.
Is it possible when a woman, now we know there's truth in everything, but for the sake of this conversation, is it possible when a woman is saying, you know what, these men ain't shit, right? Is it possible she's actually saying how she feels? And when I say saying how she feels in regards to this conversation, the fact that her insides may be messed up.
Yeah,
So, so
yeah, we project all the time. Yeah, humans
okay, okay,
are
okay,
projecting. Yeah.
okay. So,
Now I ain't gonna. There's a critical mass of men who ain't ish,
right,
like
right,
critical
right,
mass of women who ain't got her issues together.
right. So it
As
could,
we speak.
so it could be possibly being stated by sick women. They're sick, right? And the reason why I say that is because once you start to look at somebody as sick, I think it opens up the window for compassion instead of saying, "Oh, those are bitter women, those are thought women, those are," because now the dehumanizing goes crazy. Instead, if you're sick, I can extend great. Hey, she's not up to, she ain't at her top thing right now. Something's going on with her, right? What do you think about, because we talk about language, a
Yeah,
lot
and I
of,
was going to say something because language matters. I don't
okay.
know if I like the word sick. I think I like, and again, it's just it's language, because language does matter.
Okay, so
Maybe
what would be a better for sick? What was a
she's
good?
not at ease.
She's
I
not
think
at.
that's the she's not at ease.
Okay, she's not at ease. Again, language matters. So right, this, because we want to humanize each other, right? So
Yeah,
okay, so she's not at. Okay, so how? What does a doctor say to a person? Does a doctor or a nurse just come out and say a person's sick, or what does
I
the
mean, I
what?
think that that's more acceptable because you're in an environment where you're trying to get a solution
Got you. Okay, got you. Okay,
versus
because
just somebody speaking to you, and I don't like, yeah, don't call people sick. just
no,
just recognize they're not at ease.
okay, because I
There's
was just
some
trying to find it.
dis-ease with them. Yeah.
Okay, because I was just trying to find a different word than the words that are used now. You know what I'm saying? The words that are used now just has no regard for the humanity of the person. Is just, let's throw them away. I don't like your attitude, and you put a label on them, and that
And
label
I want to
just
this comment said, Maria Sunday says that they have to have compassion first, Ken. Yeah. And I think that's something that men on their own journey can definitely start working on, learning compassion. And that comes from emotional intelligence. So all of that is now going into emotional intelligence by being able to recognize when somebody's not at ease, and then you putting yourself in a mental and emotional state, to either be helpful for that person or to disengage.
okay. What does, not, it's not monolithic, but just general. What does a healed woman look like, or what is there an archetype for that?
Um, yeah, there's several archetypes for that. Let's go with I think, well, let's not, it's not just archetypes. When she's glowing, her countenance is, you can just feel her energy, it's oozing with confidence and exuberance and life force energy. When you see a woman who's full of life force, and that just means you can feel that their energy takes up space, and she is comfortable in that. She is not trying to diminish that space that she's taken up. She's not trying to dim her light. She's in her full essence glory. Because one, she's what? Self-preserved. She has her boundaries in check, and she knows who she is, and she's intentional at what she does. That is a person that you can tell is fully at ease in life.
What's intention look like? What
Was
is what?
intentional.
Yeah, when a woman is being intentional about her healing, like what does that look like?
You know, me and my girlfriends, we were just talking about this, and we felt like we were all having this collective experience of like being intentional. And one of the things for myself was that I'm going to be more intentional with my relationships this year. And relationships mean all types of relationships: the people in my community, the customers that are in my community, my children, my friends, my associations, the people that I have in my circle and network. I'm going to be intentional by reaching out, intentional by going out and going, attending events, just going out, and then not for the sake of going out, but for the sake to, with whatever my intention is for that moment and why I'm engaging with people and these things. So when you're intentional, that means you have an agenda, and everybody needs to have a personal agenda. What we're talking about right now, I'm doing on my YouTube channel, it's very divine. We are going through the 40 money mantras. And I talk every day about having your ritual, daily ritual. Your rituals should be in alignment with your agenda. So I said, we're here for 40 days talking doing these money mantras. Why are you waking up 4:30 in the morning to do these mantras? Why are you being intentional? So you're being intentional with your behavior by waking up, doing the mantra. You're being intentional with whatever action that you're taking after you do these mantras. That everything in your ritual is in alignment with your agenda. And if it's not, then you need to ask yourself, well, why are you doing this? And what is it benefiting me? And what helped me, one of the things that helped me just some years ago, a practice I learned, was to put a sticker on my debit and credit cards. And every time I pulled it out, the sticker on the sticker says, "Is this purchase getting me to my financial goal?" And that was me being intentional. Every time I looked at my credit card and my debit card, and I had asked myself when I saw that note, "Is this purchase getting me to my goal?" And if it wasn't, then don't do it. Or I'll find a way to justify why I did do it. I'll be honest. But that's intentional. Knowing your agenda and working daily and within that.
Is a woman being intentional and like personal like female agency, are they the same?
Yeah, because in order to have agency over yourself, there's an intention there. My intention is to own my choices, despite what has happened to me or what something is being presented to me. I own my choice, and I intentionally make choices that's going to put me in the best position. Because I stopped being a sacrifice a long time ago. Actually, I had a situation last year when I realized, oh look, wait, girl, you put yourself in the sacrifice seat for this one. Do you want to continue to do this? And I said, ain't no more. No more sacrificing self.
Okay. Do you think that a lot of things that women may be hearing from the world about, you know, the urgency to get into relationships or have children, or do you think that is triggering bad health?
For me, it did. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, when I started my menstrual, the first day I started my menstrual was immediately after church service, being told women were cursed, right? So, and then I grew up in purity culture. So I grew up during the purity ball. If y'all know what purity culture was, and the whole dedicating your virginity to your father and the white dress and the blah, 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 all that. So that's a psychological disruption there. So I'm already trying to prove I'm valuable, I'm worthy, because psychologically I'm thinking I'm not because I'm born female, and female supposedly was the one that ushered sin. So I'm part of the gender that created all hell and chaos on earth, right? So that's something in my conscious mind. Then there's other issues that I was dealing with growing up about the way I looked, the way I presented myself, trying to find the balance of, do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? Why do I even want what I want? Why am I going after these things, and just going? So it did create a lot of health problems for me because I was always anxious not to do something wrong, make the right choice. Because as Black women, one wrong mistake, you wiped out, right? You're wiped out. Everything you did at that point out the window. You're a terrible person. You're the slum of the earth, right? So much of that pressure and anxiety for me created a lot of body tension, shallow breathing, and I developed other health problems along the way that I had to correct.
What is the steps for Black women to find the right healthcare provider?
Yeah.
The right one to fit their needs. And
Don't
two
be
part
afraid to
question.
fire people. Well, find a new doctor. I
Oh,
had
oh,
when I was pregnant with my first kid, I had a male OBGYN. And I didn't really care if the person was male or female. It didn't really bother me. I didn't really care. I just wanted the person that was going to do the job. And when that doctor told me that, he said labor pains don't hurt all that bad. Y'all don't see what y'all complain about. I said, oh, new doctor. Didn't even think twice about it. Found me a new doctor immediately. So language matters. I don't even care if it's jokes. You ain't about to joke with me in my health. What the fuck what you mean? That's one thing. And then you just not sometimes if it means finding somebody outside your network, if you have a healthcare OHP or whatever they call it, one of those, you cannot be afraid to speak for yourself. If something ain't right, you advocate, and if not, if you are in a position where you can change and find somebody else, do it. And this is why having a network is important, because it takes the level out of doing this on your own. Because a lot of us Black women are doing things on our own and we're getting things wrong. And these mistakes set us back so much. So having a network of community, you can ask somebody like, what, who's your gynecologist, or what dentist you go to, or da 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 da. Do that so that you're able to get referred. That's how up to my later in my adult years, I started getting referred to the best doctors because I built a network of people who I could reach out and say, hey, who do you go to for such and such? How'd you find your gut health doctor? Oh, okay, Well, why do you have a gut health doctor? Oh, well, I ain't never thought of that. Okay, let me get one too.
okay. So would Black women's healthcare providers be based on the insurance they have?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it is, but there are doctors that you can find on the private sector. You'll be paying out of pocket. It's not as bad, but you can as expensive as some think, but you can have a private doctor. Like my holistic health doctor, she accepts insurance, but my insurance ain't gonna cover it, and I'd rather pay for her myself.
Here goes the question for you. Should Black women, I know women got kids and everything, but do you think that the trips down to DES have an effect on the mental state and the emotional state of Black women? Because I know inside of that DES, they be crazy in there, and they handle you a
What's
certain type of,
what's the DES? I'm so sorry.
like just where you go down and get your food stamps,
Oh,
your
like the Department of Health
yeah,
and whatever. I think they call it
right,
different places. Okay, yeah.
right. So, do you think that Black women should be those that have that? Do you think they should begin to wean themselves off because it could have health issues going on from that experience? And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I used to do jugs and be at the food stamp, I used to be like, yo, why am I here? I don't need this shit, because it just was crazy down there, and I could just imagine a person that's leaving there that don't have a support system to go home and talk to. Like, these people are talking to you like you're this big, you know what I'm saying? And then when you live in when you're living in a low income area, sometimes you on Section 8. These people all through your house, they all through your drawer, they all up in your fridge, and you can't tell me that you okay. Like, such an invasion of privacy. So, do you personally think that in involving ourselves in those things, could it have an effect on the health state of black women?
That's a very loaded question. The way I think the best way I can answer that, because there's so many factors. So so is your question like, should women not use these services?
No, no, okay, shrink it down. Do you think using the services and engaging with the people and going through that experience could have a negative health effect on black women? The process of that.
Okay, so I've been on I guess different types of assistance in 3 different states. And I can say the worst experience I've ever had was when I was in the southern states versus being on a more liberal state.
Okay.
I'll say that. So I think it really is dependent on the county and the state, because these are state benefits. I think that experience, because when I was in a more liberal state, it was like amazing service. Like it just was like it was really good service. I will say this because it's so tough to get off these things, because I know when I was in one state in particular, um, if I was to make like, I think it was like over, they said if I make over $400 a month, then they will stop a TANF benefits. And I was like, what the fuck? My rent at the time was $600. So I was like, what you mean if I make over $400 a month, you gonna take the TANF benefits? What? How is that supposed to help me? That don't help me at all, because that's not gonna pay the rent and everything else that covers me, that likely to be covered. So a lot of these systems are loophole, like, or loops, and gets you stuck in the system. So I think that causes stress, because I was stressed during that time trying to figure out, like, how am I supposed to survive in school and then take care of my kid and do this other stuff. So I can say that does cause stress. Um, Fortunately, I was very fortunate enough to get to find an employment that covered healthcare benefits, but not everybody's as fortunate. So you're going to be maneuvering through that. So if you are happening to be maneuvering through the system, then yeah, do what you can to utilize these benefits the best way you can. Still be an advocate for yourself. Just because you're taking state benefits does not mean you don't deserve to have good health care. Don't let nobody fool you, and does not mean you don't deserve to eat well. Like, F what they heard. You're at where you're at, and you don't. And guess what? How Glorilla said, that's why we love tomorrow, because tomorrow could be something else, baby.
So okay, so I think here's where the man part come in too, because there's a lot of, weaponizing, just people going through their seasons in life, as if women just naturally want to be on assistance and naturally want food stamps and naturally. So what could you say to that? And because this is a health
I want
conversation,
it. I had too much pride.
Okay, so what could you say to any men that may be listening now or in the playback? Because a lot of men have bought into the welfare queen. A lot of men have bought into the women just don't want me and they want to get this state assistance and stuff like that. And as you and I are talking, I'm like, yo, I know this has to have an effect of the overall morale, because again, some states is different than others, and I know these people really be in your business, and it's just such an invasion of privacy, right? And
Yeah,
I
I
know,
said the liberal state, they were really much in your business. But
and I think just more cooperation with the men, just a more cohesion, that can help the heart. That can help a lot of
well,
things
yeah,
that black women are going through health
because
wise.
a lot of women are carrying things by themselves. They're carrying the emotional balance by themselves of the relationship. They're probably carrying the financial weight of the relationship. That they're carrying the rearing of the children if children are involved in the relationship, and even if children are not involved, just carrying the emotional labor of someone else is just labor in itself. So yeah, it would take men to be more active participants in a more what they call egalitarianism.
Egalitarian, yeah. Hmm.
Thank you, egalitarian way, and seeing the value of her as a human being. It really does sometimes amaze me that men buy into the program to not see women as human.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of factors that have played into it, like religious society, the politics. There really is this level of not seeing women as human.
I want you to drop all your handles. I have Miss Tahiry Divine's Cash App down there for anybody that's been here for the whole time. And I really think y'all being super kind to my guests. She dropped a lot of information, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. So, if you can hit her, put something on the wood because she definitely took her time out to come chop it up with us. But Tahiry, I want you also to tell the ladies, what to do now, and how they can do it with you.
Yes. Well, my channel is all about women's self improvement and self accountability through the guise of practical spirituality. I hate spirituality that's woo woo. And that's why I say if your spirituality practice does not involve money and your health, then what the hell are you doing? So that's what we do here at my on my channel at Tahiri Divine. We go into the metaphysics of health, money, and beauty because we like to be pretty too. We want to get some glamour on, get some magic on. So if you guys are interested in what I do, you can connect with me. As well as this is my booking link. If you're interested in working with me 101, I do have spaces available to take on new people to work with and help you get your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical body in alignment. Because again, there's so much to unpack. And I feel like we really had a pedestrian conversation about everything that we talked about, but I think it's been a good start and segue. And I would more than happy love to come back at some other times and share
Of course.
ways on how to be an advocate of self and active principles you can do to better your health and money.
Awesome. That is Tahiri's handles right there for the follow up with her. That's her Cash App scrolling on the screen. On the screen. Also, you are also doing a 40-day challenge.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're I think we did day 18 today. So we're doing 40 days of money mantras, Monday through Friday. We're dropping those on the morning. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, go.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
perfect. And so if you guys are interested in being part of this wealth abundance prosperity train, then definitely join us. You can catch the replay on or the replays on the playlist stage side of my channel to catch the days that you missed and get in alignment with this. So yeah, we're picking up, we're coming down to an end, and I have another series after that. So I'm very, very excited to share this wisdom with you all and connect with you guys. So definitely connect with me on all my social sites as Tahiri Divine
So your 40-day challenge, you're doing this
on YouTube. Sorry.
on YouTube. You're doing this on YouTube.
Yes.
What's your YouTube so everybody knows that?
Tahiri Divine.
To Harry Divine on YouTube. And this is early mornings, your 40-day challenge.
Yes, yes. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, so you 4:30 in the morning, early.
We up.
Okay. Okay. So that's her QR code. Please check that out. You know what I'm saying? And again, she mentioned that this was just a pedestrian conversation. She got a big bag that she definitely could go deep and take yourself serious, black woman, because there is we started off the conversation saying that the prison industrial complex is to black men what the medical field is to black women. So if you can map that, if you understand what black men have experienced through prison, jail, probation, parole, black women are going through that in in the hospitals. You know what I'm saying? So take that serious. Her Cash App is right there. Go ahead and put something on the wood. I appreciate y'all for being super
Can
kind to
I
my
add this
guests.
real
And
quick
listen,
too?
shoot, go ahead. You got the floor.
Yeah, I want to add this because so right now I didn't share this in the beginning and that's fine. I am currently working on my doctoral studies right now, and one of the focuses I am focusing on is the spiritual implications of health problems that manifest in black women. So I really would love for black women who are understanding my voice to connect with me. You can email me or book a book with me. I would love to sit with you and talk with you about what is going on with you emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, to be part of my studies. If you are interested in being part of that, I would really love to work with our general public here to be part of my doctoral studies as I am examining the mental mind, the mental heart and physical connection of the different ailments that we have in our bodies and spiritually.
Now, question. So when you're with your ladies, how do you close out?
Yeah. Well, I typically love to just thank everybody for coming in and allowing me to share with you guys. I definitely would love for you guys to stay connected with me. Join my mailing list by going to tahirydivine.com. Follow my YouTube channel, Tahiry Divine. Subscribe and connect with me because I would love to have more engagement to hear from you all that what I'm presenting is something that we want. I know we want to have more health studies on Black women. And so it's time for us to center ourselves, focus ourselves, and fund our own projects if we have to. But it takes us as a community of women because when you heal a woman, you heal a nation.
And before we leave, because you mentioned shallow breathing, and sometimes we need other people to do it so we know it's not corny and it's cool. Can you tell or show or demonstrate to Black women how you breathe now and what that looks like?
And in the 40 days morning mantra, we do a breathing exercise every morning. So every video, we're breathing. But we can do one right now before we close out, if that's okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, if you guys are in a safe environment, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are in a safe environment to do so, please go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to get in a very relaxed position. Relax your shoulders, straighten your back if you need to, wiggle your toes. And I want you guys to go ahead and just take a deep breath through your nostrils. Relax your shoulders. Don't raise your shoulders. Feel your chest and your stomach rise. And I want you to hold that breath for 1, 2, 3, and release. 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you're releasing, I want it to be a controlled breath. Just now, one more time, I want you to breathe in through your nostrils. Breathe in, relaxing your shoulders. Fill your belly fill with air. Notice the rising of your lungs as they fill up. And I want you to hold that breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. And in a controlled S, allow that air to hiss out. 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more time, breathe in your nostrils. Keeping your shoulders relaxed. Feeling that air fill your lungs. You probably feel it in the bottom of your back. You probably feel your stomach increasing. And hold that. Allow that energy to resonate in your body. Let it circulate, and release with the hissing sound. 4, 5, 6, 8. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes, wiggle your toes, come back to. And I thank you guys for allowing me to come today and share with you all. It's been an honor, Ken. Thank you. I appreciate you all in the comment section. And for those who have been connecting, I see my phone lighting up. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your time today.
We appreciate you. And as always, you already know what we do here at Coin Gang. Of course, somebody powerful showed up to talk. Why wouldn't they? I'm a nigga with waves. Of course. Holla. I done made money, lost it, and made it back again. I done took major losses in the game. You get the benefit from my losses. I sat with some of the realest people that ever walked this planet. You get the benefit from that. See, when I'm talking, man, I'm not one of these niggas, man, that didn't get it out the mud. I'm not freestyling. I'm not speculating. This is raw and authentic. This is the game that you apply ASAP and it change your life, and people see a difference in you. People say, wow, look at her. Wow, look at him. Man, whatever they doing, man, it must be working, cause damn, they look better. Damn, they sound better. They moving better. Well, that ain't free. You gotta pay for it just like I had to pay for it. Put the money on the wood. Respect the game.